Hey everyone, how y'all doing? We here, Unfiltered, with Odalys and Pavel. And really, should we introduce ourselves? I'm like, people know who we are.
Let's do it. Yeah, start
But
off.
let's do a little short intro. So, hey everyone, I'm Odalys Jasmine, and I am the podcast host for Hella Latina or Hella Latino. I've heard it both ways, and I'm all about representing first generation voices and Latino voices in our community. And that's a little bit about me. And fun fact, Pavel was actually on my podcast, one of the OGs. So listen to his episode.
I was on the podcast. It was really dope. You know what's crazy is like I told that story before, but it was one of the first times being on your podcast where I was like, oh shit, like I have a story. Like before going on
Yep.
your podcast, I was like, who's gonna care about my experience? Which is funny too, because like when I started my podcast, and I'm talking already, I haven't even introduced myself, but when I started my podcast, I was like, yo, the last thing I want to do is share my experience because I was like, no
Yeah.
one's gonna care, no one's gonna find this relatable. So I intentionally shared other people's experiences. And
Mm.
it's actually a common theme with you, right? Like all of your episodes, for
Mhm.
the most part, besides the first one, is literally you sharing everyone else's experience. So like I was really excited to do this because this is one of those unique opportunities where, and I hate just talking into a mic. Like I can actually talk to you and the community. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I
Were
feel
you
you.
intentional about that too? Like when you launched?
Oh yeah, I mean, I launched the first episode, and you gotta introduce yourself too. So,
Oh
I,
yeah, yeah. I'll do that.
um, but just to answer your question, yes, like I was super intentional, and it's so funny you say that about your story because I remember, and this is a big shout out to my last manager, but she was like the first person to ask me like, "What's your story?" And I was like, "Oh well, let me tell you, I like went to school, I was a straight A B student, like I got a four, like bragging about what I did," and she was like, "No, but like, who are you?" And I was like, well, y'all don't want to
Mm,
know all that. Like, you know what I mean? But I think she was the first one that really kind of saw me and encouraged me to just tell my story. And so that first episode was 15 minutes of me being hella unfiltered and raw about who I am and my story and why I'm creating the platform. But to be honest, like that was the most vulnerable thing I've ever done. And to this day, I'm like, I can't believe hella people listen to that first episode. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, you sometimes think your
yeah.
story is like almost unworthy, or it's like, oh, people, like you said, are not really going to care very much. But then there's people who resonate. And I mean, that really set the tone for all the episodes to come. And you're not the first person who's told me that you like felt like, oh, I have a story to tell. It's like, yes, you do. So introduce yourself,
Yeah.
Pavel.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And speaking of stories, like, I'm Pavel Martinez. It's funny because I'm a former tech executive and I do the quotes because I mean it's true. I am a former tech executive, but like I feel weird even saying that. Now I'm a full-time business owner, the owner of Plural, and part of Plural is the Quién Tú Eres podcast. So the mission for Plural, which is my company, is to redefine professionalism because I spent years in tech never seeing people that look like me, and the people that did look like me, they was faking it as much as I was. So I want to show people that like, yo, you don't have to fake it, you don't have to assimilate, you can be yourself and still be successful. So that's what it's about. Like I want to create the representation that I wish I had when I was younger. But it's interesting too because
Mhm.
like that's a recent change for me. It's just like a whole identity change is like literally letting go of that, like the clout that comes with being in tech, right? And then like
Mm.
going on my journey, we could talk about that. But I think it's interesting for you is like you're on your own journey. Like you just joined tech. Like what is that like?
Yeah. Well, we need to talk about these recent changes, and for all
Yeah.
y'all listening, we're almost catching up on this call too. Like, okay, so there's been a lot of changes since we last spoke on each other's podcast, which was like a year ago. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear your journey about like from being a tech, like from Facebook. He wasn't working for just no tech companies. He was working for Facebook, for TikTok. I mean, he been out there, and I just got into tech, so we kind of like have very opposite stories, if you will. But I mean, for me, being a Latina in tech, and there's some people on I think that I work with on here that I'm seeing.
Oh, is that weird?
Nah, that's not weird. Hey, Colin, I see you. Um, but no, I think being a Latina in tech now, it's so different. Like, I feel like I've interviewed so many people that work in tech like you. And the common thing that I hear is like, you have to be somebody else. You have to act a little more professional. Oh, I see you, Noel. But
Hey, bello mio.
but I feel like my team is so different than most teams. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And shout out to my teammates because I went into my first meeting and Babel, I had no idea I was going to see people that look like me, people that I grew up with, people that remind me of the community that I like came up in. Like, I was blown away by just seeing the representation in the room. And that's shout
Wait,
out
so you
to
saw that immediately?
immediately. So I'm not having a regular tech experience. You're looking at me crazy because it's not regular. And that's one of the things I told my manager who's Latina. I was like, when I first had that call with her, I was like, she's Latina and she's in tech. And we had a real conversation. I didn't feel like I had to fake it. That is Christine Diaz. She's also a coworker. But it felt
This is
real.
getting
Like,
real.
it's real. It's real. And I'm still shook that this exists, that there's a team that is literally on here commenting, saying, like, we got your back, like promoting my podcast. It's crazy. It's a different experience. But I'll tell you the real tea. I did have an
Oh,
experience with another team at the company, and
this is
it's
why
not the
we
case
here.
for every other team. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not the case in every single team at the company. And I think as much as I love my team and I'm on cloud nine with it, it doesn't mean that all of tech is beautiful and roses and
Yo,
rainbows. There's a lot of other
nah,
teams that may have very different experiences. So I know that I'm lucky.
facts.
So
And that shit is like just like entrepreneurship, like that shit is glorified now.
mm,
Like,
yeah.
yo, like literally, and maybe it's just my algorithm, but like everywhere on TikTok, it's like how to get into tech, like 5 things on like how to do this. There's
Oh my God.
resume tips, and like I get why it's glorified. Like, it's better paying jobs. There's this dream or this facade where like sometimes it's recognized, sometimes it's not, that you can be your authentic self, but like you get stock in a growing company, all this other shit, right? So like
Mm.
it's better than most companies, but like I feel like it's so glorified. Like, and there's clout when it comes to it too. Like, back when I was thoughting and trying out there, you know what I mean? you
Not mean.
know, there's a certain clout that you could be like, yeah, what's up? I work for TikTok, casual,
I
nothing,
can see you walking these New
no
York
big
streets
thing.
saying, "Oh yeah, I work at Facebook. What's up?"
Yo, that's a
At a
flex.
salty
Yo,
cup.
girl.
You said, "Girl."
Cuidado. Yo, tell me, like, I remember I went into the T-Mobile store one time and like I wasn't even I was literally there just to get a new phone, right? But then, shorty looking eye, and I'm like, she's like, oh, where do you work to try to get the company discount? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
TikTok. They was like, what? I'm saying that it
And
comes with a
Babel
lot
is
of
now
clout.
dating her. I'm just kidding.
Nah. Shout out to Bay. I don't know if you on here, but shout out to Bay. Um, but yeah, there's a
But
lot of clout in it. But it's interesting that like as soon as you get in there, like you see people that look like you, because that was never my experience. So like I'm
talk
fascinated
about your
by that.
experience. Let's go. I'm gonna be drinking my champagne. That's not a mimosa because I don't have any orange juice. So, dale.
Yo, shout out to Candy. Facebook flex. Yo, the Facebook flex is real. Yeah, like that was never my experience. Like, I mean, if you look at the numbers straight up, it's in tech, it's probably like 5% Latino, Latina, Latinx, however you self-identify, and there's like another 5% black. And most of these like really big tech companies, and for the most part, they're really individual contributors. They're not managers, they're not directors, it's definitely not like C-suite. And on top of that, like I was in sales, so most of my clients, besides Candy, who I was actually working with when I was on
Shout out to
AT&T, like
Candy.
most of the people don't look like me either, right? So not only do I have to like sell
Mm.
myself into like people that I work with, but also clients, right? And the 5% of people that did look like me, they was faking it just as much as I was. So like I didn't have
Mm.
that representation to like feel comfortable and confident in being myself. So yeah, when I hear
Mm.
experiences like yours, I'm like, yo, maybe shit is changing a little bit. You know what I mean?
Or maybe it's just the company, but I was like, should I tell this story on here? But we being unfiltered, right? We being unfiltered. So
Wait, talk about Candy. Did they do a TikTok dance? Literally, they were like, and I was like, I don't do those. I'm sorry.
what is that?
You never
What's a
seen the
TikTok?
yeah,
No, I
yeah.
haven't. I
Nah,
don't be on TikTok like you be. I need to get on that TikTok game.
awkward. Sorry, but share your
um,
experience.
no, but I do want to talk about how, I had an experience in another team recently. And I won't say names or what the team was, but it was, one of those experiences where I felt like the Latina in the room, the lesser in the room, right? Because I don't have the right
Mm,
title, I don't have the right, I don't know, background, or I don't know, I don't talk the way they do. But I had come up with an idea. And me and my manager were so excited about it. We were kind of running it through a couple people. People were into it. And then we kind of got some pushback from people that were above us, and white women came
mm,
to us and they were like, actually, we're starting something like that. Can you just send us what you have and then we'll run with it? And it felt
mm,
like, you want me to send you all the work that I've been doing on this, all the work that two Latinas have been doing on this, and you want to just take it like that? It was one of those
mm,
moments where I was like, okay, yeah, like you said, my experience is so different than so many people at this company, right? I mean, LinkedIn is an amazing company and I will preach it like on the rooftops, but I think it's also a testament to my team and how much we protect one another, because we know we're like a team
mm,
of the underdogs, if you will, you know? So I feel like we
mm.
protect each other and the ideas that we have, but there's still people that exist that don't want you to succeed, and have like this envy, like, well, I'm doing that project, so I don't want you to do it, but send me what you have. And it's like, you want to take what I have? That reminds me of like,
Interesting.
you know, I'm like,
Yeah, it's
people
like
came
I
into
put
our
in all
country,
this
took all the things we have. I'm like, I'm not about to do all that. So I never
girl.
so we never gave it to her, but I think it's just a testament to my team. My team is so dope. And there's still a lot of work to do, but I think it's just, we have to be the game changers. So, but it's almost, is it exhausting? You were in tech a lot longer than I was. Is it exhausting to be the game changer, or having to say, well, I want to be the game changer, I want to make space for us? Like, you're looking at me crazy. I'm like, is that exhausting?
You know what's crazy is like we created these platforms like Quién Tú Eres and Hella Latina to share our stories and other people's stories, but there's a need for that. Like the fact that there's even a
Yeah.
need for our platforms, the fact that we need to create these platforms is just like an extra burden that other people don't have to carry. You know what I mean? And like
Hmm.
in some ways, I wish I didn't need to do this. You know what I mean?
Oh, I feel
Like,
you. I feel you. It's hard. It's hard out here. Like ooh, I just became a little old lady. But I think that it's just it's so difficult, because I don't know if you felt like this, but when I created my platform, I almost felt like, oh shit, I'm not alone. Like it was that feeling
mm,
of, there's more people out here that need to hear these stories, that want to hear these stories, but also feel the same way I've been feeling my whole life. And that's why what you said, it totally resonated with me, of like, create something that you wish you had when you were younger. Because man,
mm,
if I had stories about Latinos like yourself, Latinos all over, like doing their thing. If I had stories about them overcoming those first gen struggles, overcoming these like really difficult identity issues, or just figuring out how to navigate identity and Latinidad in these spaces, including
yeah,
corporate, man, I just feel like I would have had somewhat of a roadmap. And I feel like that's what I want my podcast to be. And it still helps me with my own roadmap to this day, because being first gen doesn't end when you like leave college, right? Or doesn't like leave
nah,
when you're younger. It's a forever thing. And I think these stories just help bring communities together and help them feel like you're not alone in this. We all struggling. We all figuring this out.
yeah,
Like
but
StreamYard, we first gen that shit.
yo, but a lot of conversations about like the challenges and struggles, but like one thing I'm trying to do as well is like celebrate certain things.
Oh
And
yeah.
like I saw
Mhm.
something on you that you posted the other day, and it's about getting to tech. Because like part of the reason it's glorified is like the money that comes from it, right? Like I know you're not a millionaire, but like it was probably more money than you were making, and like you even got enough
Yeah.
money now to like start spoiling your mom, right? Didn't you like send your mom to
Mhm.
vacation?
I
That's a
said my
big deal.
parents, it is, and
That's a big deal.
that's why I'm writing this hype, and I always tell Pablo, I'm like, "I wanna get to your level so that I can, like, take a little break." But
How did that feel though? Like, what was your mom's reaction? Like,
uh,
yo,
I it was it was probably one of the happiest moments in my life, honestly, because you grow up and you see your parents struggle so much, and
mhm,
I think I had a realization so young, like, I just want to have my parents go to the store and not worry about how much milk costs, right? And
Yes.
just
Like you
like,
swipe the card and not even worry about the price type of
yeah,
shit.
like
Yeah.
that's how you know you made it when you just don't care about the price. You're like, all right, like let's go. But I remember I like had like I saved a lot of money and I was like, what do I do with this? Do I want to do something for myself? And the first thing I thought of was like, man, I would have loved to send my parents to Hawaii for the new year. And
Oh, so
like,
you've been thinking about this for a while.
oh, I have because my brother had moved to Hawaii with his family.
Mm,
And so I just wanted to do something for my parents so that they can see the family over there, but also they've never vacationed once in their life. Like,
what do you, whoa, whoa, whoa.
because
What do you mean they never vacation?
they never vacation. My mom worked her whole life. My dad, paper situation, citizenship, couldn't travel.
Wow.
And so they've never vacationed. The only vacation we would ever do is like Christmas time. We would drive to freaking Arkansas because my family moved over there. Long story. But like they all moved over there and
Yeah.
we would go just for like Christmas. But like it's not a vacation that was all paid for, that they could just enjoy, kick back. So I made a deal with my brother and I was like, listen, I want to pay for mom and dad to go to Hawaii. And then I want you to spoil them with food and not have them pay for anything. And if you need help, I can like send you money. And he was like, oh, no, 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 I got it. So he paid for like just
Wow.
them and the excursions and all that. I paid for their flights over there. And so it was just a proud moment. And but their smiles, like
Hmm.
it just brought me so much joy because it was real. Like they were like on the beach hanging out. My mom was in the water, and I have never once seen my parents like you could just see it in their eyes, like they were just happy. And I think
Yeah.
it's such a difference from like growing up with them and seeing them constantly like doing things around the house or working or doing that or doing this to
Yeah.
just seeing them rest. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want to do is just see them rest. So it was
Yo,
great.
that is so deep on so many levels, but it's so real. It's like, yo, like that ability to give back and even just like think about like how much our parents have given to us. And now that we are making, I mean, probably more money than definitely more money than they've made or even they even dreamed about making, right? And like,
Mhm.
I mean, simple shit. Like, yo, my mom has never told me to give her money. The only thing she's ever told me was to give my grandparents money. She was like, even if it's a couple dollars for the lotto, whatever it is, right? But I was really fortunate enough to finally get to the point where like I was literally paying all my mom's bills, like
Mm.
medical, car insurance, rent. I was like, Mom, give me a list of like all your payments. Like what's the total? I was like, word? All right, cool, done. Like I'm gonna just send you every check I get, like just that.
What that TikTok money do though.
You heard? Yo, get that money, y'all. Get that money, yo. These tech companies is paying out there. I
But
mean,
I
yo,
wanna okay, I wanna talk about your mom
yeah,
though,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you recently left tech and you had a conversation with your mom. And I remember when I left my previous job, having a conversation with my parents about that was weird and difficult. And like you just had to have a lot of conviction in your decision, right? But I want to hear about you because talking about your mom. And by the
Yeah.
way, plug to Abuelita. We all love her and we miss her content. So bring it back.
Oh. Yo, abuelita, it's so funny because abuela loves the like she'll take a picture, she'll take a video, like she doesn't mind doing all that stuff. But my mom is so like against it because she thinks I'm just gonna embarrass her. I was like, no, it's not embarrassing, mom. Like people want to see it.
Oh.
Yeah. But not yet. I got to the point where like I could pay all my mom's bills. So to take a break away from tech and like quitting my job was literally like me quitting the opportunity to support my mom financially because now I got a savings account, but like I got to use that to like hold myself down. So I had to tell her like, "Yo, mom, I can't pay your bills anymore." And like in a way, I had to do that. And like my mom's a very like humorous person. Like even if there's like a tragic event, like she'll find a way to. I think that's her way to deal with pain, is
Mm,
humor. So
yeah.
like I've never seen her cry. I've never seen her like be emotional. She's always dealt things with humor. And I kind of did the same thing. Like I would so like if I was gonna quit in February, I was like, all right, you know what, 3 months or like couple months in ahead of time. I see my mom every other weekend or like every week. Every time I see her for like the next 2 or 3 months, I'm gonna throw in a joke. I'm gonna be like, Mom, one day them checks won't stop coming, mom. You know? And she was like, ha ha ha. And like slowly it would get like more and more serious. Like, no, mom, like I'm actually thinking about leaving. And like I kind of built it up that way, but eventually we just had a real conversation. And like, it's not like my mom's gonna be like kicked out of her apartment. Like she's able to pay her bills. Like it's just that the money that I was giving her was like a cushion so that the money that she gets from the government now that she's retired, she would use that to like go gambling, go shopping, buy a new TV, whatever she needed. Like it was more, she had more disposable income. Whereas now the money she has is really to pay those like necessities and like a lot less disposable income. So it's kind of heartbreaking, to be honest, because like you said, right? Like you want to be able to provide for your family. And the idea is that I could do that again now with just my own business versus like depending on a corporation to financially support those same dreams. You know what I mean? So like the plan is to still do it, just not through TikTok, through my own business. But
And I think that's I mean, you just reminded me of just a first gen thing that I think about all the time is like choosing yourself too,
facts.
And
That shit
that
is not easy. I feel like I
and that
just got to that
difference.
point.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And I think I remember this conversation I had with somebody, we're being unfiltered right now. But I remember I had this conversation with her about like, oh, I don't want to move into a new apartment just yet because, I have to help my parents out and do XYZ.
Mhm.
And her response was, well, it's not your responsibility to take care of them. And I'm like, well, no, but I want to. And it's not like I'm going to leave my parents just like without anything. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the first instance where I was like, not everyone has this experience, And that makes choosing yourself that much harder. So that's a kudos to you for being able to have that conversation with her and step back and say, I want to choose me and my business right now, but I still want that for you, right? Like this is all for them as well, but it's also for you too. And I think it's remembering that you are also a priority, which is not easy, but like,
Yo, remembering your priority. That shit is, yeah. That's a daily. It's weird because like I'm so good at setting my boundaries and being open and honest around so many things. Like at work, I'll be the guy to like, no one wants to like step up or like say something that we disagree with that. I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like even in relationships, like if I don't want to go to like an event or I don't want to watch a show, like I'll be like, yo, I don't really want to do that. But for whatever reason, like my mom and family is like the last, is like the final person you gotta fight in Street Fighter or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like it's the final step to be like, yo, I'm over this shit. Like I don't know. It's
right.
just like there's always that feeling that you just like always want to provide for them. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's always going to be there because we just grew up a little differently. Like we just saw so much of what they sacrificed and we don't want that sacrifice to be in vain, right? We want to show them like, listen, this is what your sacrifice did for me. It got me here at my business, it got me here in tech and like managing my other entrepreneurial like endeavors. Like you just want to show them and prove to them it was all worth it, even though it was so hard what they did. So whew, constant struggle. Shall we
Yeah.
cheers? I'm like
Yeah,
champagne
cheers.
break.
Jesus. Jesus, cheers.
Mm. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you about my experience with my parents too. I remember my last job. A shout out to my last job because I think it taught me so much. But it was a small business, and after 2 years, I just felt like I want to go. I want to keep growing. I want to go somewhere else. I want to do X, Y, Z. And so I ended up leaving that job, and it took me, first of all, so long to leave that job because I was like, okay, but what about the money? And then I looked at my savings and I'm like, I'll be okay for like a year if I wanted to. And I was just kind of like overthinking it. I thought about it for months. Like, should I leave? Should I not? I almost felt like malagradecida, which is like something that I've heard growing up all the time. Like,
Mhm.
you got money, like, why would you leave it? And you have benefits and this and this and that. Why would you leave? But I just had this like deep feeling and deep conviction like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I want to give this entrepreneurial life a try and do it full time and see what it brings me in a few months. and you're seeing it now.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder.
Because when you quit your job, you didn't have, it's not like I'm quitting this job to get another job.
Mm-mm. No, I left to be a full-time entrepreneur, which was the hardest thing I had to do. And at the time, I was living with my parents. So
Yeah.
I felt like a part of me was like stubborn, like terca, like I don't need to tell my parents, like it's cool. And then I was like, oh no, I need to tell them because, like you said, the checks aren't going to be coming. I won't be able to help as
Mhm.
much, but I'll help here and there, like with groceries, of course, and anything else I can do. But I remember having a conversation with them, and it's so funny you're talking about humor because I think that's how a lot of us get through a lot of things. Like my dad is the
Yeah.
same way. Never seen him cry. Even in our darkest moments, he would try to make a joke about
Yeah.
it. Um,
Is that just a Latino thing? Like,
I don't know. I was just thinking that. I'm like, is there a Latino thing? Because I remember, Babel, this is so deep, but I remember us. This is the first night we were at the park because we experienced
mhm,
homelessness for a while.
yeah,
First night in the park, my dad, like we were all just bummed, right? There was a lot of sadness around, a lot of darkness around. We were just kind of figuring out how to feel about the situation we were in. And
yeah.
my dad goes, "Why y'all all sad? Like we're in the best star in the best hotel in America. We're under the million-star hotel." And
Oh,
we just start like laughing about it, but that was my dad. Those entire 6
yeah,
months that we were just dealing with what we were dealing with, he tried to make us laugh and smile and remember families here. And then I remember once we got our house, he just broke down and cried. And he didn't do it in front of anyone. I like heard him talking to my mom and he just broke down. And I was like, there was so much pain in every joke that he had, but that was the way he got through it
wow.
and the way he wanted to be strong for all of us, right? But anyways, that's the story
Yeah,
there, but just with humor. But I did the exact same thing with just telling them about the job. I was like, like I want to be a full-time entrepreneur, hella Latina girl. And they were like laughing about it. They didn't get it. I was like, okay, they're not understanding what I'm trying to say. So I just need to tell them. And I was like,
I'm
I'm
trying to be
leaving.
a hella Latina
I'm
girl.
trying to be a hella Latina girl full time. And they were
Why does
like,
why does that sound
okay.
like you're why does that sound like you about to be a Fashion Nova model? Like, I'm about to be a
Hey, yo,
baby fat
Fashion Nova.
girl, you know what I mean?
No, but for real, then I told them and they were like, "Estás loca? ¿Qué?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
were so confused. Like, ¿qué te pasa? Like, what's going on? Like, esto y el otro. And I really just had to sit down with them and be like, no, I really just want to give this a try and just say I tried it. Right. And like, who knows? And they were like, hay que, darle gracias a Dios que tenés un trabajo y esto y el otro. And there was so many moments where I was questioning my own decision because of how they were reacting. But I just remembered like,
yeah,
you know what? Like, this is a decision I made on my own. And just like, and this is inspired by my parents too and their struggle. Like, if they can make it through, like, I know I'm going to be okay in any situation I'm in. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be fine. And if I'm not, like, it'll be cool. I will figure it out then too.
yeah.
So it's just having
Yo,
conviction in that, like for real.
I think, and yo, I'm first of all, I definitely want to apologize to. I'm I mean, eventually we'll get a producer for this, but like I'm literally like, trying to talk and also like click in the comments to make sure that y'all see all the comments, but like, we haven't had
Oh,
time to walk through all of them. But I just want to say thank you for like sharing these stories, for jumping in on the conversation. Tatiana in particular, getting vulnerable and just sharing that like, she was able to support her mom through retirement. Yo, because that's real too. Like we're often like the retirement account is not a 401k, it's a 401 Pavel, it's a 401
401
Odalys.
Pabe.
You know what I mean? Like that is us, right? So and being able to, provide her through, support her through difficult times. Like thank you for sharing that experience. And also want to confirm, Candy's shouting out that like, it's a black thing too. Just watch Black Twitter. I'll be on Black Twitter. I mean, when I had a Twitter, but yeah, I'll be on there. Noel also as well acknowledging Black Twitter. I think it's interesting too, because like even if you look at the best comedians objectively, it's all black folks. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's so like being able to laugh through the pain is a real thing, and like there's probably some correlation around that. You know what I mean? Some sort of
Oh
trauma
yeah.
related to like how funny you are and releasing that through humor. I think is really interesting. But it's interesting too, because like now that you're in a now that you got a tech job, like when you were taking off, like you were building up this platform, continuing to build it up, and now you got this job. I'm so curious, like, what's the feedback been for you? Because I remember when I started posting stuff, when I started posting content, it was all fun and games and cool and celebrated, like, oh, I love you all sharing stories. But as soon as I started talking about my experience in corporate,
Mhm.
people internally was like, yo, you sure you want to be public about that? Like, you, like, how does that reflect on the company
Oh.
that you work at, you sharing all these personal experiences in tech? Like, can you make sure that like it's about other companies and not like this company? And like, you, do you want to talk about this internally? Maybe there's a solution for that
Mhm.
instead of like being public. Because my shit started to go viral and they were worried about their public perception when I'm trying to tell them like, no, 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 like this has nothing to do with y'all. Like this is,
Yeah.
these are challenges and things that like everybody's experiencing. You know what I mean? So like
Mm.
I was getting like people were telling me literally pretty much to like not do that and also not to talk to press about certain things that I was experiencing. Like almost felt like for the most part people didn't try to censor me, but there were a few times where I felt like people were trying to censor me.
Mm. They were for sure trying to censor you from what it sounds like. And it's so funny. It's a constant struggle, but it's funny timing because I had just had like a conversation with my manager yesterday
Oh
because she
word.
was like, yeah, yeah, and she's in here, so shout out to Nat.
Hey, hey, shout out to Nat.
But I remember and like just shout out to just great managers because we were having a little check-in and of course it's like we catch up human first, like how you doing, how's life, and then we talk
Yeah.
about the things on the check-in, like how's work and this and that. And then she was like, can you add in a section about just like the things you're doing with your podcast? And I was like, you
Wow.
want to hear about that? I was like, really? And I told her I like get nervous because not, and I'll be real with you. My last manager was cool and was one of my mentors and homies, but she wasn't cool with it. Like she would see me posting about it and she's like, can you also post about the company? And I'm like, oh, you're
Mm.
forcing me to talk about the company? Like that's not fun to me.
Yo,
You know what I mean?
and that's yo. I feel like if you go on LinkedIn, and this is no shade to LinkedIn because I feel like the platform is changing, where like people are actually talking about some real life shit. But like I used to hate going on LinkedIn. I actually enjoy going on LinkedIn now because people are talking about some real shit. But like before, people are just like, got this new job, celebrate me, and it's
Uh-huh.
like these cookie cutter like PR approved for external comms updates on where the company's going because like people use
Right.
it as like a sales tool, which I get, but like I love the fact that she did that because like you probably felt empowered to keep going. I mean
Oh
the
yeah.
other situation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when she asked me, "Can you post more about the company?" I was like, "I mean, I can, but do you want me to be Colin's comment?" We all out here trying to be hella Latina girls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yo, me too, me too.
Fashion Nova, where you at? But no, I mean, that was a real moment, and that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, oh, I think I need to leave this company because I want to be able to share in a really safe space and be unfiltered about what I want to talk about. And it's so funny because when the situation happened at my company now at LinkedIn, and my manager and I went through that situation where like someone was trying to take away our project essentially. The funniest part was that my manager was like, man, she did that to the wrong person because now you're going to be talking about it on like a podcast or a live.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
here I am.
Yo,
um,
you want to know the crazy thing? When I had an exit interview, like because of the plot, and this is the thing that I want people to realize too. And like it talks about that dope shit, right? It's like when you share your stories, people are gonna see you, they're gonna find you, and your platform is gonna grow to the point where literally people are scared to fuck with you.
mm.
Because if they fuck with you, we're gonna talk about it on unfiltered. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
We're gonna
Hmm.
talk about it on our platforms that we built that people can't control, right? So, yo,
Hmm.
literally during my exit interview, because the virality of some of my posts, I was told to, yo, can like I've seen your posts, this and that. Yo, like, can you take it easy on us, like on social?
And you're
I'm
like,
saying like
bet.
our voices are powerful though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that shit could really impact people out there. So
Yeah. And your posts are, I mean, your posts talking about like transparency and pay, like those posts to me were just like mind boggling. I was like, this is real. This is how much you can make. And like, that's one of the
Mm,
first gen things that I talk about a lot is like, you don't know what you don't know. And when it comes to pay, like, how do we know? Like, how do we know?
yeah.
Who can we trust? Who can we talk to? And I think you're doing that for a lot of people in the community, which is so dope. But I mean, to your point, people know. And that's the thing. You asked the question about like, how has it been, with work and doing all the things that I'm doing now. I think it's because I have dope support from dope people. I I just, I'm still being me on the platform. I'm still posting per usual. I'm still being real about the things that I'm going through. And I think that I intentionally am who I am, and like whoever wants to hire me knows this is a package deal. Like you're going to get me, my voice, my content, my podcast, you're going to get all of this plus dope work. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like I think it's sometimes scary and it's vulnerable and it's like, oh, people are
very
following me
scary.
that I work with and like they're going to see all this, but at the end of the day, I want to be real and I want to at least have like I think me and you to gas yourselves up. I think we need more people like me and you on this platform to be real and to be vulnerable because so many people are scared. I mean, you told me an experience that
Yeah,
you had with Plural where you were going to interview someone and they were like, "Can you not share my name because I'm
yeah.
scared?" Right? And that just shows there's so
Mhm.
many people that are just scared to have their voice out there. So I'd rather put myself out there, put myself in a vulnerable situation so that other people feel like they can share their voice too.
Yeah, it's interesting when looking at the guests on my podcast. Yo, girls don't give a fuck. Shout out to all the I can't believe I'll say this. Shout out to all the women, no, the people that want to be hella, what'd you call them? Hella Latina
Hello,
chicks?
Latina girls.
Hella Latina girls.
Ew.
Yo, I'm just gonna blanket all the women that have been on my podcast as a hella Latina girls, but yo, women don't give a fuck. Like
Mm-mm.
literally every woman that I've self-identifies women, all that kind of, they when I ask them to be on a podcast, there's like, no, tell them where I work, tell them my name is this. Only guys are the ones that ask me to hide their name,
Oh,
and like this is not me shaming anyone because
yeah,
I understand that fear. I get it. Like it's
yeah,
real, and like it's been shown in previous experiences that if you speak up, um you can get fired. Like it can literally impact your job and like sometimes even get like violent, right? So like
yeah,
this is not like I understand and I honor the fact if somebody wants to be they hide their name or hide where they work or hide all those things. I'm just
yeah.
pointing out like my experience in those conversations. Like I've even had like, shout out to Chris who I think is on this chat. Like one of my good friends, like, I was trying to get him on the podcast and he was like, yeah, let me think about it. Let me do some research first. And I'm like, research, bro. Like, I just want to talk about your experience. Like, you don't got to be a historian on on Dominican culture or anything. You know what I mean? But like,
Mm,
there's this like, I would say men. I'm not gonna say scared. I would say they're more hesitant to
yeah,
participate and have conversations. And it's interesting. I don't know if this is the same for you, but like, even if I look at my audience numbers, 70 to 80% of my audience is all women.
yeah,
Um, like something about like those vulnerable conversations like they're even more willing to listen to them. You know what I mean? Or even like
yeah,
challenge certain things. And I've always found that so fascinating when I just look at like the numbers.
yeah. Well, first of all, shout out to women because vulnerability. But
Yeah.
also, I think I'm trying to figure out what that is, and maybe I don't have the right answer, but I think I have a lot of like empathy for men. I grew up in a big family, and most of them are men. And
Yeah.
I grew
Yeah.
up around lots of boys, and I think society, our culture, Latinos, we need to do a better job about protecting our men. And there's just so much like, and this is why I can't. Yeah, snap
Okay.
clap.
Protect the
But
men.
but
Let's
we
go.
do, and I know a lot of people won't agree with me, and this is like why I have a lot of trouble with like these hardcore feminists that feel like it's against men, and I'm like, why
Oh,
can't
you
we?
really
Why do?
getting unfiltered in here.
Yeah, I'm like, why do we have to be against men? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why can't we like still preach all the things that we're doing and amplify who we are, but also bring in men as allies. You know what I mean? And so I feel like because I grew up around a lot of men, I feel like I understand so much of what they don't say, right? So much of what they feel
Yeah.
and how hard it is for them to be vulnerable in a culture, a society where they can't do that, right? Because they're looked at a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. So I just feel like we need to do a better job protecting our men. And maybe that's what it is. Like they're scared of being vulnerable and real because we live in specifically a culture that doesn't really welcome that. So
100. I think that's fascinating too that you like grew up with, because I'm the opposite. Like you grew up with a bunch of dudes. Like I grew up with like all women for the most part. Like I'm the only child. Well, like my dad's a Dominican man, let's just say. So I
Dominicans,
gotta
does he cheat or not?
hash, hashtag Dominicans
Hashtag.
don't cheat. God, but he's whatever. I have a bunch of step brothers and sisters. Let's just call it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
yo, this man be traveling too. Yo, shout out to my dad. I don't know why I'm shouting him out, but shout out to my dad.
You said shout out to him.
Yo, shout out to Boppy. The original Big Boppy. This man got like not even this man. I got a sister in Boston. I got a brother in Puerto Rico, and I got another sister in Florida. Like this man,
Oh,
talk about thoughtin' and trotting. Where
you said thought and shot, and I cannot with you.
he was, oh my god.
Someone
Anyway,
said old school Dominican to clarify. So there you go.
old school. There we go. Because
Old
there's a new
school.
breed. There's a new
Yeah.
breed. Me and Noel in here. Hashtag Dominican men don't cheat. You know what I mean? And Chris. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say though. What were we
Shout out to your papi, the original Big Papi.
the original big the original Big Poppy. But nah, it's interesting that Noel said he was like, yo, everything's fun and games until you speak out and use your platform to be a champion for cause. Yo,
Yeah.
and that's so real because it's like I always had this like, yo, everyone praises Colin Kaepernick until there's a Colin Kaepernick within their organization. You know what I mean?
Oh, that
Like,
part.
yo, and the crazy part about that whole like the pushback that you get, like most of the time in my experience, it be your own people that push back on you. Like
Mm.
white people support me in my outspokenness, but it's typically my own people from an older generation that tell me that I'm doing too much, or that tell me like, yo, be careful for your
Um,
job, or like some sort of concern for my safety and all those kind of things. It's
oof.
always the older generation of people that look like me, and not just
Mm,
Latinos, but also the Black community as well. And I feel like that comes from the trauma that they experienced, or like the fear that they had, and trying to like instill that fear in me. And I get why, right? But it's like these are different times where
right.
like compared to where they was at. So that's another interesting thing that I've had to deal with as well. It's almost like I'm disappointing
So
somebody
interesting.
said this on my podcast, and it like always stuck with me. It's like it's almost as if we're disappointing the people that we've looked up to for so long.
Mm,
Yeah, like there was someone that I looked up to within an organization that I used to work at, and I was like, I want to be like this person, like a leader, an executive, mad awards, and like she's the same person that was like, "You sure you don't want to handle this internally?" When I did my transparency post, and I was like so
mm.
disappointed that she was disappointed in me. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. This reminds me of a story I talked about on your podcast about an executive I used to work with. And it was my first job. Y'all, I was fresh in school and I was like, oh, my first big girl job. Like I'm doing this and this and that. I was doing events. And the executive, she was a woman of color. And she was literally like an inspiration to me. She was just outspoken and she was dope and she was just like professional, knew her shit, right? Like in all the ways. And I remember thinking like I want to be just like her. Like everyone respects her, everyone loves her, everyone vouches for her, and she's also smart as shit, right?
Yeah.
And she's leading this whole company. And I remember one time I came in mind you, I was doing events and I was at an event and it was hot as fuck outside. So I came in wearing my regular ass outfit, high waisted jeans with a shirt. And Latinas got a little some, and we got curves. And I remember she comes up to me and she's like, "Why are you wearing that?" And I'm like, "You don't like this outfit?" And then she, I was joking with her. And she's like, "No. You got to start wearing, like, stop wearing crop tops, stop showing the body off. Like, don't be that person."
Mm,
And I remember feeling so betrayed in that moment. I was like, "Not you. Like, come on."
yeah.
And I think it's just one of those moments where, like, yeah, I feel that. I feel that in my own family. I mean, we got to be real. Some people in our family are going to be haters, and it is what it is. But I also
Yeah.
feel like I understand when you're talking about, like, these older folks that you look up to who are also telling you something that you're like, that doesn't feel right to me. And that's when I started wearing, I think I told you on your podcast, I started wearing like long cardigans and started wearing lots of like
Yeah.
just things to cover just the hips, because I got white ass hips and whatever, it is what it is. And so I think what would look sexy on my body may look totally normal on someone else. Do you know what I mean? And so I feel like it was one of those moments where I was kind of disappointed and almost felt like, should I be hiding my body? Should I be like, do I show too much?
Mm,
And it's still something I struggle with, like, to be honest. And when I'm meeting the team in person for the first time, I'm like, okay, what should I wear? Like, I don't want to be like, you
yo,
know what I
what?
mean?
Yeah, what did you wear the first time? Because I
I
had
think,
the same experience.
oh, did you really? Oh my
So,
God.
it's funny because like I talk a lot of shit about like being your authentic self. Not talk a lot of shit, but like that's what my content is. But that doesn't mean I don't struggle with it too.
Oh,
Like
100%.
I gotta upload a picture. I actually sent a picture to my girl, um, and I was like, "Yo, all this stuff," and here I am wearing a fucking like sweater that like I would never wear outside if it wasn't for work. It was like a sweater that I bought literally just for work. And like after that, it was like oh shit. And after that, I wore something that I would typically wear. But even the first time I met my TikTok coworkers, I had that same experience. I was like, what do I wear? And I went back. I defaulted back to like assimilating, let's call it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
What
don't,
did you do though?
I think I just wore like, I think I still wore my high waisted jeans because it is what it is. I love my high waisted jeans. And I
Yo,
think I just
I
wore
hope
like a
high-waisted
loose
jeans
sweat.
never go away because yeah.
You're like, I like them too.
I like them. I hate the low rise. I'm not a big fan of low rise. I like the high waisted.
Oh no, that was in the 90s. That's gone. But I feel like I just wore my high-waisted jeans and then just like a loose top. Like, I didn't want to wear a tight top because I'm like, then people are gonna start talking about my curves. But I
Hmm.
feel like it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle. Every time I get ready for work and I like am meeting up with somebody, I always think about what I'm wearing. Like, what are they going to
Yeah,
think of me? Because you just never know. And this is the thing about being a woman too, and
yeah.
being in these spaces. Like, someone once told me, like, you don't want to just be another pretty face, and I'm like, I'm not another pretty face. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? And they meant well when they said that, but I just think like it's hard. And someone put it, Arlene, she's like, we need to stop sexualizing women, and especially
Facts,
women of color who, yes,
facts.
we have curves. Yes, we like have little voluptuous traseros, but like, you know what I mean?
Wait, what's a trasero?
Trasero means badonkadonk. But it is what it is. Like, that's just our bodies. And I always thought
Yeah.
about that when I was in these like freaking offices. I was like, what looks normal on me? I'm wearing a dress, right? Like, it could be
Mhm,
a skin tight dress. If I
mhm,
wear it compared to someone who doesn't maybe have curves or like, looks a different type of way,
mhm.
I would be the one that's sexualized. And I'm like, how do I have control over my body? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just wearing a
Yeah,
dress. And so I feel like we need to do a better job of stop sex. And yes, someone says stop sexualizing women. That
yeah.
part.
And Candy put wide hips matter. Let's go. Yo, shout out to Candy. That's
My hips don't
hilarious.
lie.
The hips don't lie. Nah, but that's real. And like it forces you to like buy a complete new wardrobe, which is expensive. You probably spend like it would someone would just take like 5 minutes to get dressed. Like you probably all up in your head, like, oh no, if I wear that, you try it on, it's like, oh no, look at the side. Mm-mm.
Right,
And like it's
right.
it's a whole ordeal.
It's a whole thing. But
Um,
you want to go out for drinks? It'll take me a minute. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what I want to wear. I've been trying to wear this outfit.
yo,
um, it is what it
as
is.
as we're wrapping up, I do want to highlight a few comments. I think a few trends that have happened in the first episode. Yo, Dominican men are fighting for their lives in the chat. They're like, we do not cheat. Those are old school Dominican men. Those are the original Big Poppies, the new school
Hey,
Big Poppies.
let them
We don't
know.
cheat. Dominican men are fighting for their lives. So, yo, just know that like I'm fighting for y'all too. And there's also there's a trend with the hella Latina mommies out there. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
hella Latina mummies. Okay.
Hella Latina girls don't
Yes.
support low waisted jeans. Yeah, you know what? As soon as I saw Julia Fox with low waisted jeans, I was like, I hope this is not a trend. I hope this is not a trend. I just
Wait,
hope.
what?
Julia Fox, you didn't see the low waisted jeans she was doing?
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
Girl,
Damn,
maybe share.
where I been?
I could share my screen. You matter of fact, we technological in here. Let me see
We
this.
out here.
Actually, no,
And
we only got a minute
let's give
left.
a big shout out to Pavel for handling all the back end logistics. We're like, we need a
Yeah,
producer on this.
yo, facts. I'm actually not gonna share my screen because we only got a minute left, and I want to be conscious of time. I'm just gonna highlight some comments. Any last thoughts, Odalys?
No, I'm excited for the next Unfiltered, but this is it. We're just gonna be real about our experiences. And so thank y'all for joining.
Thank y'all. Yeah, let us know in the event if y'all want to hear about any specific topics. And yeah, we'll be here next time.